Do I love being a software engineer? Well, that's a good question. And the short answer is yes. Now, I was recently talking to some family about what I do, what's my career, what's the future outlook, and I started talking to them about, my job. I'm a software engineer. I gave them the spiel, the description of what I do. Some people find it interesting. Some people get a glazed look in their eyes. It really is depending on who you talk to about your job. But most part, software engineers don't get the love that they're supposed to. I know a lot of people in the news hear about, people working remote from beaches and making $300,000. That's not the lifestyle of every software engineer. Now, it is a job that could make you above average in regards to pay, and you could live a comfortable life with it. But not everybody has that luck of making a great amount of money. Now, compared to my second field of choice, which was going to be healthcare, being a software engineer is awesome, right? Because originally I was going to be a pharmacist, and pharmacists, what they do, they make medicine, stand up all day, have to take calls from doctors, nurses, asking questions regarding medication or even patients. And although it's great to be able to give back, that definitely would have been more taxing than being a software engineer. A software engineer, there's a lot of pros to being a software engineer. You work remotely, you get paid pretty well, and it's not as physically taxing compared to other fields, right? You just sit down or stand up, depending on if you have a standing desk. Occasionally, you may walk if you're in the office, walk around, discuss with people. But you don't necessarily have to, right? It's not as physically taxing as being a doctor and making rounds to see every patient, maybe going to another hospital and going to see other patients at other hospitals, or even being a pharmacist, like I said, of standing up and making sure that the medication is in the proper area that it's supposed to be, or interacting with patients. So being a software engineer is definitely a great career choice, in my opinion. I will say though, and for my software engineers or future software engineers, that it is dangerous in regards to just sitting down all day. So make sure that you get up and you be active. Or like I said, invest into a standing desk and stand up occasionally, because there are health risks in regards to sitting down all day. You can form blood clots, you can get rounded shoulders. You just want to make sure that your body is active. I know some people even get like small treadmills that they put under their desk, but just make sure that you walk around and that you're active. Even when I was in the office, my boss was actually working out at the company gym during work hours, because you just got to make sure that you get your blood pumping, that you get your body moving, because sitting down stationary for hours is bad for your health. So stay active. Now, there is a lot of flexibility with software engineering, especially if you work remote. I've been able to go to dentist appointments, doctor's appointments, even home appointments, because of the fact that I'm able to work remote, right? I still have to go in the office occasionally, but having the flexibility to work from home has allowed me to do so many things. Now, you still got to make sure that you get all your work done, because if you don't, then you're going to have managers and your coworkers micromanaging you, and you may even lose that flexibility of working remote. So you want to make sure that you do your due diligence, do your work, and then you can take advantage of the flexibility. And you want to make sure that you communicate with your coworkers that, yeah, I'm going to an appointment for an hour or two, or I'm going here for an hour or two. Just let them know, communicate, and most of the time you're pretty okay with it. Being with a great company, you get a lot of great benefits. Now, you get the normal health insurance, dental insurance, the match 401ks, but even there's incentives, right? So when your company is doing really well, just like the company that I work for did really well last year, we all got free cruises. It was a nice work cruise that people were eligible to go on. You could take a plus one, and it was a nice cruise to the Caribbean. Not a lot of other careers will offer that. I know a lot of finance companies offer incentives. Maybe that come with an extra bonus, or maybe that's a free flight to a resort in another country. I know there's finance companies that does that, but not a lot of other careers do that. So the fact that tech has all these incentives to do a great job and to bring revenue to the company is great. And there's my personal favorite, which is PTO. You have companies that offer unlimited PTO, and even though a lot of workers don't necessarily use or excessively use the PTO, the fact that you have a fallback just in case anything happens to have unlimited access to PTO is pretty great. Unfortunately, I don't have unlimited PTO, but I do have a decent amount of PTO where I've been able to take advantage of the PTO that I received to go to countries like South Korea, Japan, France. So they've given me enough time to be able to travel the world a little bit. So for all my engineers, make sure you take advantage of that, because you want to make sure that your brain is refreshed so you can continue to output good work. Now, I know I've been talking about a whole bunch of rewards, money this and money that, and and flexibility. But let's actually start talking about work and what I love about being a software engineer. Well, I like building a project from the humble beginnings of nothing to Z, which is having the product in a user's hand. Um, it's great to be able to first think about the solutions and what we're trying to build, and then getting the product out into production. I've been able to do that a couple times in my career, or not even a couple times, but a decent amount of times in my 3 year career so far. And each time, luckily, has been successful. Sometimes there may be delays because of little bumps in the road, or maybe an API is not ready. But for the most part, we've been able to get products from a humble beginning to back into the user's hands, which is great. And that's what I really love, right? Because you may try to approach it one way with one language, and then you realize, okay, there's another language that we can use, another approach that we can use, another pattern that we can use. So it's a puzzle that you're trying to put together. Maybe you might have to take a piece from another puzzle to make it fit, but at the end of the day, to make the puzzle functional and working and efficient, that's the goal of a software engineer. Now, even recently, I was able to work with a rental company who had an application that was built in the 90s, and they haven't modernized it since the 90s. So when I opened it up, my eyes started to water a little bit. But being able to take it from that old application to a new modernized application that the employees can use and enjoy brought joy to my heart, right? It was rough, but it was satisfying to be able to help that company get from a old approach to a new approach, right? To a more modern approach. And honestly, it feels good letting people know that you're a software engineer. Obviously, just the title alone, when you start giving a description on what you actually do, like I said, their eyes get a little bit glazed. They don't know what's going on, but to let people know that you're a software engineer, they automatically assume that you're pretty smart. They just hear that engineer part, right? And it doesn't mean that you're not smart, but I think if you put your mind to it, you can be a software engineer. You just have to have some type of love for it, some type of care for it, some type of motivation to learn it. You don't have to be a genius to be a software engineer, is what I believe. But it still give you a nice little boost to let people know that you're a software engineer. I would say though, it's not as sexy as saying you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're a pharmacist, you're a finance pro. But I think we're getting some respect in regards to the role, because not everybody thinks that being a software engineer, you're entitled to working on the beach with a margarita or some tequila, and you're able to work with your laptop on the beach with no problem. I think everybody has that wrong assumption about it, but I let them think that way. I let them come and join on in and see the life. But for my people who's listening and wondering if it is true, no, it's not true. I mean, some people, depending on the company, maybe, but for the more serious companies, I don't think you're able to work on the beach and just relax and chill as a software engineer, in my opinion. Another wrong assumption is that I think a lot of people think that software engineers make $300,000 and up. That is not necessarily the case. A lot of software engineers do make a great living. Not every software engineer makes $300,000 with stocks. It's not a one shoe fits all type of situation. There's engineers that are making $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, and that's still great money, but it's not the $300,000, $400,000 salary that people are expecting. Now, when you compare the time to the salary, it's still pretty great. I talked about the role of a doctor. A doctor does a lot, go to see patients. They work pretty long shifts, depending on the hospital that they work at, but they also put in a lot of time to become a doctor, to get that title. So usually a doctor has to put in 10 to 12 years, maybe even longer, depending on the specialty. And coming out of school, they may make $200,000, but a software engineer only has to put in 4 years and they can make a similar salary. And for the next 8 years, they're continuing making that salary, or it's even increasing. So they're making a lot of money coming out the gate compared to a doctor. Now, a doctor eventually in the future can open their own private practice and, make 500,000 to $1 million or even more. But I'm just saying, initially, a software engineer, for the time that they put in, the money is great. And sometimes a software engineer doesn't even have to go to school. They can do a boot camp, or they can already have experience prior, and they can just join a company without even having to go to school. So I just think the money to time ratio for a software engineer is pretty great compared to other careers. Now, I will be honest to say being an entry-level engineer or a software engineer right now in general is pretty rough. We are in a tech recession where getting a job, especially as an entry-level engineer, is not easy. Recruiters are not reaching out anymore. Companies are putting out job applications, and you're seeing 500 applicants, 600 applicants for one role. It's tough right now. So yes, I love being a software engineer. I love the flexibility of it. I love all that it provides, but we're definitely in a slump right now, and it is tough to even be a software engineer. So I got to be honest about that. This is probably the roughest time to be a software engineer. In my time of being in the field, I've only been in the field for 3 years. Talking to some older engineers, they said that 2010, 2008 was very similar. That time between 2008 and 2010 was very similar. So this may be that rocky road just like before. Hopefully, in the future, it does correct itself. But right now, it's pretty rough to be a software engineer. I would say the more experience you have as a software engineer, the better you get, the more opportunities available. So once you get that senior role, I know it's relatively easy to go on to another company and get another opportunity. But like I said, those entry level engineers to the middle engineers, it's tough. Overall, I enjoy the field. I enjoy my job. I enjoy the company that I work for. I enjoy everything about being a software engineer. There's obviously some ups and downs, but like I said, compared to the time that I put in to the ratio of other careers and the money that I'm making, it's a great opportunity, right? And the skills that I've learned, the things that I'm able to do with the skill set that I learned, the people that I'm able to help, the people that I'm able to meet, is pretty great, right? And there's different communities that you can go to. There's conferences all the time for software engineering. Uh, so just all of that combined is what makes software engineering so amazing. And even me as a software engineer, I'm still growing. Like I said, I just got to that 3 year mark, so there's still a lot more for me to learn. But I'm just gonna keep going and keep just growing as an engineer and as a person. But I do know the past self of the person that put in the work to even get to this position would be pleased with where I'm at. Just continue going, keep growing, and the people who want to get into software engineering keep growing, keep learning skill sets, and hopefully the tough times subside and you're able to get in. And for the students, because I was able to talk to a student when I was out the country. It's funny. I met a dude that went to Berkeley when I was in South Korea, and he was talking about getting internships and how it's tough right now. Just keep putting the work in, and you get it right. Just keep building projects, and hopefully the tough times subside. Because being a software engineer is great, and I enjoy it. Even though people's eyes do get glazed when I do talk about what I do, I just say I build apps, I build websites for big companies. So hope you guys enjoyed that. If you like being a software engineer, leave that down in the comment section. Leave a like, subscribe. More content is coming. I do want to talk about what I hate about being a software engineer because there are a couple things. I like to be realistic. So stay tuned for that.